Okay, so we now add style to our page using cascading style sheets. You will use cascading style sheets to change your font, colors, and create a two-column layout. So Dreamweaver's cascading style sheet designer, in conjunction with LiveView, will offer you a visual way of styling your web pages. To use it effectively, it's helped to have basic knowledge of the CSS properties. Now, I went through this in the last class, so you may want to go back and review your CSS properties. Now, if I just want to show you something here before we get started, if I go back and I open up Dreamweaver 6 and I open up the CSS styles, this is what your CSS styles used to look like. In order to create a style, I would have to select down here where it says New Style Rule. If I wanted to attach a style sheet, I would have to check right here. So I can just select right here, and for this document, I'm just going to create a HTML document, and I'm just going to select P, which is the only style that I have, only item that I have on this page, and I'm going to hit OK. And then it used to open up to a dialog box, and you would set your rules, your font, your background, your block. You would go through everything here. It was kind of encumbrant way of doing this. It didn't really give you a good visual idea of what you were doing as you were working on your file. So I suggest that you stay with the cloud version. This is the most updated versions of all the Adobe programs. It's better if you stay with the cloud version. The school gives you the program for the whole year. It's going to be very confusing if I have some students doing CS5, CS6. You can use any program you want to, but I think it's just much easier if everybody just stays on the same page and everybody stays with using cloud. Let's just go and close this up. I'm going to close this Dreamweaver up. And I'm going to go back to our file that I have here, and we're going to take a look at the CSS Designer. So now they call Dreamweaver has changed the name. It's called the CSS Designer, and all this is you have all content in place. The next step is going to be to style your page with CSS. So remember that CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So Cascading Style Sheets is actually a collection of format and rules that control the appearance of the content of your page. So the CSS Designer consolidates most of the style management functions that were spread over different dialog boxes, as I showed you in the previous versions with CS5, CS5.5, and CS6, and panels and the previous versions of Dreamweaver. So now the panel consists of 4 panes. If you take a look over here, you can actually see the 4 panes. The source, this is where you make your style sheet. You can create a new style sheet, attach a style sheet, or you can define it in your page. You have your media, selectors, and your properties. So it's divided up into 4 panes. So the source, like I said, is lists all the sources styles that apply to the current page. So whatever you decide, you can actually create a new style sheet, which we're going to do for this project. And at the same time, you can attach an existing CSS style file. It just really totally depends upon what you're doing in your project. So you can include external style sheets, like I said. You can also embed styles, blocks, and inline styles, and that would be those styles that you attribute to your HTML tags. Also, if you notice, if you scroll down here, you'll see that there is a media section. This pane is used for the manage media queries that and apply styles selectively depending on such factors as browser width, orientation, resolution. This is very advanced for this section right now. Later on, you're going to be working a little bit more with media, but this is a really nice addition to the cascading style sheet. You have the ability to control the formatting of your media. Now down here is the selectors, and this is the pane that you're going to use to manage all your style rules for your current page. And current page is whatever you have assigned. If you created a new style sheet, then it's going to be that style sheet. We're gonna show you how to do this, that style sheet, and these will be the rules that will apply. The selectors will be the rules that apply for that current style sheet. The list of selectors can be filtered by searching for any part of a selector name. So once you create your selectors, and then you can just select them down. You can filter your CSS rules. And then over here in your properties panels, we're going to go through this when we start working with this. This panel sets the properties for individual style rules using visual tools where appropriate. So this is where using Cloud, at first it may seem very overwhelming, but it actually, once you start getting used to it and you start working with it, it's going to make a little more sense to you than the previous versions of CSS styles in the previous versions of Dreamweaver. It's really a lot easier to use. All CSS properties supported by modern browsers are listed, organized in 5 sections. So we have 5 sections, and we're going to go through these sections. You have a layout, text, border, background, and other. So the best way to understand CSS Designer is to use it and to practice with it. That's the best way to learn how to do this program. You can actually, when you're working with this tutorial, you can just do this tutorial, or you may want to work with this tutorial as you work with your file. Whichever way you find is the easiest way to do this. So review my Dreamweaver and CSS for explanation of CSS selectors before you even start beginning this section. So we're going to actually create an external style sheet, and we're going to attach it to this page. So use a CSS to format a page to separate content from presentation. This is very important, and the reason why this is very important I'll explain in a minute. So this is all your content. All your HTML here, this is your HTML code that resides in my HTML file. And the CSS rules that define the presentation of the code are going to be on an external style sheet that I'm going to create. So I'm going to separate my content from my presentation. Now, the reason why you want to do this is because let's say you had I just recently had a friend of mine who created a website with 100 pages, and he brought the site to his client, and the client decided did not like the font that he chose for his body copy. So it was very easy for him to change this. All he had to do was go to his cascading style sheet and just change the font. He did it one time, and that was it. And then all his pages, all 100 pages, changed right across his whole file because he had attached that style sheet to all his pages. Now, if he had not done that, and he had just worked using HTML, then he would have had to go through each and every single one of those pages. It was very, very time consuming to change that font. So using an external style sheet is the most efficient way of using CSS, because changes made to rules in an external style sheet are automatically applied to every page that it is attached to. It's very important to understand this. And I know that some designers just don't feel comfortable using CSS styles. They prefer to, especially new designers, sometimes it's hard to make changes. They want to stay with using HTML and using tables, but it's not the most effective and most efficient way to create a website. Start getting used to using CSS styles and start getting comfortable with using Cloud. So now if you notice over here that I can actually adjust the size of these panes by just scrolling up and down, and I can even adjust the size of the whole file. If your file looks like this, all you have to do is just grab it and open it up, and then you can see what you have here a lot easier. So now we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to select up at the top here with this little plus button here where it says source plus, and I am actually going to create a new CSS file. And I'm going to call this main.css. I'm going to browse right out. I'm going to browse out to my folder. Make sure that you put a dot here. I'm going to put it inside this folder. So it's in my styles folder. I'm going to link it, and I'm going to hit OK. I'm just going to go back out and look at my folder to make sure it's there. All right, there is my style sheet. I'm going to actually open this style sheet up. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to open this up in the program that I'm using right now. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to save this file as I go through and work on it. Because you have to save both files. It's very important that you save your CSS file. I've had new designers, they go through and they do their whole project and they write back to me saying, I did my whole project, I did my whole style sheet, and then I saved my page, and there was, when I went to back open it up, there was nothing there. And I says, okay, did you save your file sheet? Oh, I thought my file sheet automatically saved. It doesn't automatically save. You have to go back to your file sheet, and as you do work on your file, you have to save your file sheet too. I kind of do it both together because you just don't know what can happen. You know, I think it's just the easiest way to do it. Now, if you look over on the code here, you can actually see your link. You can see your style sheet is linked right here. And I will highlight it so you can see it. That shows that it is now linked to your page. So we're going to create some basic styles. We're going to set the background color of the page and the wrapper div. And we're going to select a font for our file for the body copy. And we're going to center the page. So we got to make sure you have this selected, because this is your style sheet. So if you can't place any styles on, if you don't have your style sheet selected, you got to make sure that's selected. So we're going to go down here in the selector section right here, and when there's a plus sign, we're going to select this, and then it opens up down here, and I'm actually going to create a style for the body. So I'm going to write body, and then it automatically starts popping up. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to hit enter. And once I hit enter, I've created a new CSS rule for body, and you can see up here, I can actually see everything right up here on the top here, on the properties panel. Now remember, we talked a little bit, we didn't really go over these. This is the layout. So the layout for the body, this is the text section. As you select up on the top, you're going to see how it changes. You can actually see how it's more efficient than previous versions of Dreamweaver. You can actually visually see everything. It actually has everything. If you scroll down, you can actually see everything. It divides it up in sections if I select type, but if I scroll up, it shows the first one, the layout. So it just kind of scrolls to it. If I go to the border, it kind of comes down to the border, but if I scroll up, I still have the layout, the type, and then the border. You see it's divided up in the little sections. And then this one is the background for the body if you want to do that, and then custom. You can place in your own custom styles. So let's just go back up to where it says in properties. So I'm going to click right in the center here for the margin. I'm going to click right in the center of the body, and it's automatically, you can see that it's automatically grayed out. That means I haven't put anything in the content. There's no content in. The second I place something in, then it changes. So I'm going to select here. I'm just going to select 0. And I'm going to hit enter, and it automatically changes. You can see it changes the bold and automatically changes everything to 0. So once you click it, otherwise it's going to change to default if you don't do that. Okay, so the reason why I do this, the reason why I set this to 0 is that I want to set my margins on all sides to the same value. I mean, if you want to change this value, you could, but the 0 is actually the best way to set your margins at this time. So now I'm going to select the text icon at the top, which is right here. And where it says undefined, I'm going to select this box right here. And I'm actually going to put this color in that's on the page. Make sure you have this little symbol in front, because if you get rid of this, then it won't recognize it as being color. And I'm right in the text. and I just hit enter, and it automatically goes in. So the color box, it turns into a very dark shade of color. It's almost black. It will be used for the color for the main text. So most designers will agree that pure black text on white is not very easy to see on the eye. So the very dark gray seems to be a better solution. So now we're going to choose a font. And you notice here, right here, underneath we're still in the text section, it was still in the body, we haven't moved. If I select font family here, now it opens up to a dialog box with all the list of commonly available fonts that are on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So by default, the browser relies on the fonts installed on the user's computer. So the browser tries each one in the font stack until it finds the one that is available. So as you can see, there's a font stack here. I'm going to actually choose Gill Sans, but if Gill Sans is not on the computer that the user is using, it's going to go through all these other fonts until it finds the font that the user has in his computer. So I'm going to choose this one right here, and you can see now that my file is already starting to change. It's already reflecting what I am doing. You can notice how it just looks so much better already. My page is starting to shape up, and I haven't even really aligned my page yet. So now I'm going to put in a background color. So background color, I just have to go up to the top, and obviously I have to find background, which is right here. The background color is the color that is on the outside of the web page. It's on the outside of the, in the background. So I'm going to choose a color, and I'm just going to set this to a light blue color. I don't want it too dark. I'm going to follow the color that I have here in my file. Again, make sure you have that number listed, that little symbol in front. And then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now I have set my my color. So whatever is on the outside of my wrapper, whatever's in the background, is going to show this very light blue color. I mean, you can change this if you want. This is totally up to you. Okay, so now I'm going to click this again, the selector down here, make sure I'm still on main. But actually, before I do this, I'm going to go over to my file, and I'm going to see what I've done so far, and I'm going to save it. You just want to make sure you remember to save this, because if you don't save this, you won't have your work saved. Go back to my index file, and I'm going to look for my I'm going to create a new selector, and I'm going to create it for the wrapper. So I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to put this little symbol in front. Okay, remember we made all these divs. We're going to go down to the wrapper, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so it has all the same elements for the wrapper that you had for the body. Text, border, everything is all here. You can change all kinds of elements on your file. So I'm going to put a white background in my wrapper. So I want my background, I want my website to stand out from the blue color in the background. So obviously I got to select background right here. And where it says undefined background color, I'm going to choose white. It's hard to get all pure white. Pretty close. And then I hit enter. And then I'm going to go back to my file and just check and see what I have. It's pretty close. And I'm going to save it. Go back to my file again. Keep remembering not to forget to save your CSS sheet. Go back to the index here. So now I've put a white color in my wrapper, and the background is a light blue, so that kind of separates the two together. So now I'm going to go back and select my layout icon. Make sure you're on the wrapper. Make sure you're in the layout icon. And where it says, you notice here it says with property, I'm going to select auto. It's already at auto, but I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to select percent. I'm actually going to write auto in. Okay, it wants to go back to 0. So let's just check our file again. And then save it. So we keep working on this file. Now you can, we're going to actually set a min width and a max width. So we're using the percent value. So what this file is going to do, if I open this up on a on a web page, if I open this up on somebody's desktop, I'm going to see it's going to be one size. It's going to be, the max is going to be 1,000 pixels. If I open it up on a tablet, then the max is going to be 740 as far as the width goes. So that's why I'm setting this up to percentage, so that it will adjust, the size will adjust to whatever computer that I'm looking at. So if you want to use the scrub, you can use the scrub tool. Let's just have the wrapper again. I find it takes a long time to do this. There's the scrub tool. If you scrub it to the right, it increases the value. Scrub it to the left, it decreases the value. So if I use this and I set it in there, you just kind of go along. It increases the value. I find it easier just to put the value in, because it just takes forever to do that way. So my min width is going to be 740 pixels. So my max is going to be 1,000. So I don't want my file to be any bigger than 1,000, and I don't want it to be any smaller than 740. So that's real important that you do that. So now I want to center my wrapper. I'm going to go back to my style sheet and check and make sure everything looked good, and I'm going to file and save. Go back to the index file. Make sure I select wrapper again. Every time you go out, you have to go back and select the your selector down here. So make sure you have wrapper select again. And right here where it says margin, I'm going to select right in here. I'm going to put auto on this side, on the left, and auto on the right. And that's going to center. You can always see that it's centering my file. That is going to center my wrapper. And everything else, remember, your wrapper is your container, and everything is inside your wrapper. That's why it's important that you create a wrapper. Your file is going to be flying all over everywhere if you don't create a wrapper and put all your content inside of it. So I'm going to go back out to this, and I'm going to save it. And you can see everything is in here. File, save. Go back to my index file. So we're almost done here with this section. So the next thing we're going to do, the last thing actually that we're going to do, is we're going to place a style on the Golden Gate Bridge image. Let's go back over here now. I'm going to select this. And I'm going to, first I have to put that little symbol in, okay? And I'm going to select hero. And I'm actually going to make a space for my image. You usually don't put space, but for when you use a descendant, so this is the descendant selector. When you use a descendant selector that styles the image of an element that's with the ID, then you need to put a little space. So I'm going to put a little space, and I'm going to put image. And now you notice it already is looking for image. It's trying to help me. I'm going to hit enter. So now I'm working on my image. So I want to keep my max width at 100%. So the image will now automatically scale when the browser is less than 1,000 pixels in width. So where it says max width, We have to find max width is right here, and I'm going to put percent in, and I'm going to put 100, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so the max width is going to be 100%. But when you go down here, we're going to go all the way down here. If you can see, this is the desktop where we are. If I hit tablet, then the max width is going to be 768 pixels. And then I can go back to my desktop, and the max width is going to be 1000 pixels. So we're pretty much all done here. I'm just going to go back to my main, and I'm going to save. I'm also going to go back to my index file, and I'm going to save this. So let's just see how this looks. Let's just file and preview this in Opera. Okay, so far we've had just a few little styles. We haven't put a lot of styles on it, but it's already looking a lot better than it did. My file is centered. So I like what I have here. And now we're going to come back, and we're going to start putting more styles on our page.